Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to Business and Finance on Echo Television International. Nigeria is actually accounting for more than half of the population of West Africa, and with the chain of events that have been happening from the weekend down to today being Monday, market been opening, we know that definitely we're going to be having gainers and losers in the market, especially when it comes to stock market, bonds, and lots of other businesses. And we have to start looking at certain things. How can our currency be improved, or how can it depreciate? It will be occurred that in October, the Ghana cedis was rated as the worst currency in the world. And looking at the fact that lots of factors are being responsible for the currency depreciation, possibly we look at economic fundamentals and also look at the interest rate differences and also political instability. These are part of the reason why the currency actually has gone so down. But then just within the weekend down to today Monday, we can see that Nigerian currency have actually joined the worst currency in the world. This is a report that was given by Bloomberg. To naira equivalent to the dollar at about possibly down to today, the currency that's talking about naira to the dollar is about 890 and down to 900 naira, with differences based on the official market rate and also on the BDC, which is the Bureau de Change market. And it will occur that last week the EFCC raided the Bureau de Change, where we saw that lots of BDC operators were being arrested, and lots of them are still going through interrogations and also to be persecuted, even though some of them have actually officially registered their businesses. But definitely lots of questions will be in mind why the EFCC is raiding that. We will occur that 2 days back we had where the CBN have actually launched that from 15th of December. They will be launching a new phase, a redesign for the currency, and definitely issues have been coming back and forth if that is the reason why we are having a depreciation in our currency. And we know that for every economy to thrive, we have to look at more of import, of export rather than import. But it seems that the Nigerian economy have been depending so much on import rather than export, and it's very paramount and important that we look at reasons or issues why the Nigerian currency has been rated as the world. We know that officially the Nigerian naira is doing pretty well, down with just 4% against a strong US dollar, ahead of the Canadian dollar and the Swiss franc. But that exchange rate is only used by the government, because we know that ordinary Nigerians are still gambling between 37% drop in the wide used black market, and the market is one of the worst performing currency, which we have the Ghana cedis, which I said has been rated as the worst, which is down by 55% this year. And then we have the Salaka Ruby. Its peers include the Sierra Leone, which is down by 36%, and the Egyptian pound, which is lost by 35%. I know there are one or two other issues actually responsible for this currency going down. We know that here in Nigeria, part of the reason why experts and analysts are actually looking at the reason why the currency is falling, we have the issue of the oil theft, vandalism, and lots of other issues are there. And we know that recently in October, the CBN has increased the interest rate as a way of controlling the inflation rate. But it's surprising that I'm looking at the inflation rate presently is really high. As of October, we're having the inflation at 21.32%, and that is really trouble for lots of food consumers, even looking at businesses, commodity prices. And when you go to price goods right now, rice, new yam, and all of that, that the price has actually skyrocketed, coupled with the fact that we had the flooding recently that have actually stand as a threat to food security. But then the president of the country, which is President Muhammadu Buhari, have told the ministers to swift into action to see how that food crisis can be averted. And I think that is the right step in the right direction, if you ask me, because at the point where we are having lots of meetings, the recent one in Egypt that is holding concerning the climate change and also insecurity, and then also global recession, because the UK is also going through some recession. So there are a lot of reasons and factors that can actually stand as a threat to the currency presently, and we are looking forward to when all of this will be stabilized, because experts are looking at possibility that by 2023 the currency will possibly be stabilized, especially the naira currency will be stabilized, even though we are looking at factors by February. It will be the presidential election and also governorship election. So part of the reasons why lots of experts are looking at maybe there might be a likelihood of the naira being stabilized to maybe 680 naira per dollar, which is, we are actually being hopeful about that. We are not very certain if that will be it, but then looking at the chain of events that have been happening, we could say that maybe that could actually lead to having some positive output coming from the market, and we are really being hopeful about that. We're still looking at the signs, even though lots of signs are showing that it's red, but then we are looking at actually having a green back, and all of that will actually make the currency, especially the naira currency, to really stand. Because if we're going to compare with other counterparts in other part of the country, we know that lots and lot of things need to be done, because we know if we're going to look at possibilities of what the CBN or how we can actually improve on that, is we have to look at more of export, which I say, rather than import. We know that Nigeria is more of a consuming country rather than an exporting country, but we're still looking at a chain of events, possibility that will change. Maybe we're looking at the cashew farm, looking at possibility rubber, other natural resources that maybe Nigeria can tap into. Because if we look at oil theft and vandalism, a lot is going on over there, even though there's still persecution and interrogation concerning that, but then we're still looking at that the output of things will be better. We saw where beginning mid-year, where we saw bakers threatening to go on strike as a result of energy inflow. It's really not going where we have energy. We have even the fuel crisis that we're having presently. There seems to be scarcity, and even today on the papers we saw where MAN and other manufacturers are complaining seriously about the interest rate. Now we know that seriously can actually stand as a negative for the Nigerian economy rather than on the positive side. But then we're still hoping that the outlook will be beautiful at the end of the day, and there are lots of things will work out, will be stabilized, and then we see how the currency will come back on check. Because if you take a look at back how the currency was, especially the naira, that a lot needs to be done. Even though lots of complaints are coming from people that maybe the reason why we are having the currency the way it is when the CBN spoke about the redesign of the currency, and we saw how lots of business gurus are actually rushing to the bank to deposit and also get the dollar, and maybe that is why the dollar is quite scarce, and that is why you can only get it in the black market, which is the Bureau de change. But then we still look at the different output, and we hope that with the chain of event that is happening, with the harvest on the ground and lots of meetings going on, the climate change and looking at dry irrigation farming, that possibilities are that maybe that will be able to stabilize the currency, and also the CBN will look why the maybe possibilities we are seeing that maybe the CBN, rather than focusing on increasing the interest rate, because we saw the interest rate was increased in October to 15.5%, and lots of bankers, especially the commercial bankers, people their depositing customers have been complaining about the interest rate. Imagine when you go to borrow money, what it will look like. So why don't the CBN concentrate more on our exchange rate rather than on the interest rate? Because we know these are the three factors that govern any economy to grow. When we look at the exchange rate, the inflation rate, and also we look at the interest rate, these are the three factors that actually run the economy, and then that will be able to help in the stabilizing the currency. So we hope that rather than concentrating so much on interest rate, and because that is the only way to control the inflation, possibilities that the CBN will actually look into how they can stabilize our exchange rate, because that will determine so much. Even though the CBN say no money has come in, especially dollars, no dollars have been deposited by the NNPC throughout this year. And reasons the NNPC is giving that is because they say that for any dollar that comes in, they use it to pay the fuel subsidy. and we know how we run in the fuel subsidy. Lots of things are actually not very clear in the market over there. But we look forward to making sure that things are better. We're looking forward to making sure that with possibilities that the Nigerian government might stop paying the fuel subsidy mid next year. Maybe we'll be able to see how refineries can be fixed in the country, and then possibilities of maybe having the local refineries in the country, and then concentrating more on having export. We have lots of our goods, especially when you go to the eastern part of Nigeria, the Aba goods left, right, and center. But it's just unfortunate that we prefer wearing a foreign clothes because it gives us a sense of belonging rather than being happy to actually consume our own local products. But we look forward to where possibilities, some of the policy the government would set to be able to regulate, and then the Naira can actually come back to its former glory. I mean, where we can actually boast and say, yes, the Naira is actually what you can use outside the country, rather than depending so much on the dollars. So that's how far we can go on the looking at the currency exchange, the worst currencies in the world. But then I think let's move further to global trade. A lot is happening over there. Just during the weekend, we saw where the Glencore has been ordered to pay £281 million for its role in bribing officials in West Africa in exchange for the lucrative oil contract, the first case of its kind, brought under the UK corruption law. It's quite unfortunate, right, where we, Nigerian government, have been struggling so much to see who are the people behind the oil theft and also vandalism. But we saw that the company here, that's Glencore, has been responsible since 2017 till date. That's quite a long period of time to actually track that. But then we are happy that they are, going through some persecution from the UK court, and they have been asked to pay some certain fines. We saw they are going to pay like about 93 million naira total plus, and then also some other, fine. And not just only is Nigeria being affected, we have the likely of Ghana, Malawi, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, as well as, also looking at other preventing bribery in the Equatorial Guinea, and then the newly independent Southern Sudan. It's really a time where business tend not to be going well. The Nigeria has not met its quota for the last 30 years. It has been Nigeria is unable to meet its own quota of the crude oil when it comes to OPEC. So we know that what that stands right now is at a time where we are seeing the company that is behind that should be able to curb down the corruption, that should be able to curb down the oil theft and other vandalism. And then I think that especially businesses will be hoping, or also will be having where experts and analysts will be looking forward to other people being able to track those who are behind oil, theft and also vandalism, especially in the West Africa. Questions will be running through your mind. Why is it that it's West Africa that's been affected mostly by this oil theft? And then how comes the NNPC were unable to track that? His company was actually, working towards being corrupt. A possibility is that I think interrogations are still going on, where we see that the officials that are behind that will be brought to book, and then we'll see that the fine that is being paid will be able to fix all that is going on. But I think a lot more needs to be done when it comes to the oil theft, because this is not just about the Nigerian government, but this is about the global trade. In a time where there are lots of recession globally, in a time where the climate change is not favorable for businesses, in a time where energy is not there, in a time where fuel scarce in the West African countries, but even globally, we have when unemployment is going on and the interest rate for lots of businesses, tax and all of that is quite high. So to look at some of the worst performing countries when it comes to the oil sector, but then for it to actually contribute to the trade system, I think it's important that also a good picture when it comes to businesses thriving properly, and also business having a very good atmosphere to strive better, because it is important at a time like this where we see that not only because it, when you look at the world's currency, it actually has a way of affecting the way the global trade system goes, because when one currency falls, it has a way of affecting another currency, and that is how we see the chain of events keep going on. And so with the oil theft and also the fine that the UK corruption law have set, which they said the Grigor Energy UK, a London-based subsidiary of the Swiss trading giant, was totally, ordered by the UK court to pay a fine of £183 million, plus a total of £93 million and a legal cost of around £4.5 million incurred by the Serious Fraud Office. And the company actually pleaded guilty in June to 7 counts under the Bribery Act 2010, following the illicit payment related to oil transaction in Nigeria, which I mentioned, Ghana, Malawi, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, as well as failing to prevent bribery. We saw where lots of people say, how comes for every ship, vessel that leaves the shores of Nigeria, the NNPC, some of the officials say they are not aware. But I think that is to show that some people are actually sleeping on duty, or possibilities are some people actually gain from it. But we're hoping that possibilities with the fuel subsidy being stopped by mid next year, maybe that will give us an outlook on what to look forward to and how to control our own oil. And also with the fact that just recently Kogi State of Nigeria have been about quite a number of oil has been found. That means the North is actually trying to put its head also when you talk about some of the oil producing states in Nigeria. So I think it's a very good outlook. And then possibilities are experts and also analysts, government agency will look into how the oil in the North will be used and utilized properly. And also that will give us another side, not just to depend on the oil, but then how they can also, the Nigerian government can also depend on other places, just like I mentioned, talking about natural resources, crude, cocoa, cashew, and also lots of things. And not to keep saying, even though recently we saw the issue concerning the Ukraine and also the Russia, ever since it started its war, food has been an issue. But I'm happy with what Russia is planning, even though Russia is planning to open the Black Sea so that food can be flowed in from Ukraine to other parts of the nation that actually need food. So we look forward to, all of that possibilities. Our food crisis will not really affect lots of nations, especially when it comes to 2023. And also we will see that looking at the convention that held in Egypt recently concerning the climate change and what can be done about it, we'll see that lots of things will be controlled, and then all of this will be able to help with the global trade. At least lots of other nations will have something to export, and also that will be able to boost the currency of the economy. Because I keep talking about the currency because it's important at a time like this, where you see that for a nation to really improve on its currency, and also for us to be able to control some of the global trade happening, especially when we're talking about oil exports and all of that, like the Nigerian government, that basically, even though we have the crude oil, but basically we export it and then it's being refined and then we import it back. So it's kind of really, we spend more on borrowing in the nation rather than what we need to create. And it's important that we make more than we borrow. The budget for 2023, actually, we're running on deficit. So you could see that all of this have been affected because there seems to be no money in circulation. But then we look forward to what the UK court is going to do about that vandalism and oil theft. And then we look into what experts are foreseeing for the currency of Nigeria. We hope that the currency won't go to 1,000 naira to $1 by the end of the year, because this is what experts are actually foreseeing. But then we hope that that won't get that bad, because we know that the people that will be affected are basically common Nigerians, especially transport fares going to be really, really high inflation for food prices, energy, and all of that. So this is like we might be affected for a short period of time, but then the long term is where we see that the currency will begin to grow, will begin to have value, will be more stable, and then will not be having you going to the market in the Monday on the Monday, and then before the end of the week it's another different price, like we saw it during the weekend. And for some black marketers right now below the chain, they're saying it at 910 naira to $1. So this is really very, very risky and a very bad timing at a time like this, where we're still recovering from lots of things that are happening, even though we're still hoping that things will be stable. So we hope that experts will say more, and then more will be, carried out morning on the business and, finance segment on Echo Television. Remember, we're live on Facebook and also on YouTube. So you can drop your comment, your contribution, what you feel is happening, how the currency can be stable, and, other topics that you feel is topical that we need to actually touch on the business and finance.